When we think about good and bad, right and wrong, good people, bad people, oftentimes what we have in mind are actions and events. So, for example, good is saving somebody's life, feeding a hungry kitten, building a hospital, building a well. Right? Bad, hurting somebody, assaulting somebody, um, obviously killing somebody, war, these kinds of things. Right? That is a great place to start as it concerns ethical thinking, and yet we could push a little bit deeper. For example, immediately an objection could be brought up that um, any of these things construed as objects, construed as simply spatial temporal events, do not seem able to um, be susceptible to moral descriptions. So, for example, if we had a world full of robots, which fortunately or not, unfortunately or not, seems to be not inconceivable, at least logically, at this technological point. If we had some such world, then we can't say that, quote unquote, from the perspective of or as it concerns any of the robots, any of the aforementioned would be good or bad, right or wrong. That a million robots go and destroy a million other robots, so what? These are just objects, changes of how matter is organized. We could say that a robot gives a helping hand to another robot. We can't say that that's right or that that's good. That one robot helps a robot with creaky, metallic, would it be joints, or whatever it would be, machine joints, cross the road. We can't ascribe any ethical worth to that. Right? So why? Why not? If it's just the actions, if it's just these kinds of events, war, bad, helping somebody almost cross age challenged cross the street, good. Why would those descriptions not apply as it concerns robots? Here, the seemingly obvious answer would be that robots, for one, are not sentient, and sentience is required uh, as it concerns any possibilities of ethical evaluations. There has to be somebody there to experience and to perceive. So we say, oh, so it follows from there that then pain is bad, right? Suffering is bad, and that pleasure is good. Right? We need sentience, so robots don't count. And once we have sentience, it's whatever leads to pleasure and moves us away from pain. But here as well, immediately counter arguments can come to mind. For example, is the pain that an athlete sustains in the course of training bad? Should the world be free of all pain, including that? Let me spare you, marathon runner, from the lactic acid in your legs as you're running because you're in pain, you're in suffering. I'm a good person. I want to get rid of suffering. Say, well, no, not that kind of suffering because that's chosen, that's constructive. So, what kind of suffering? Well, the suffering of disease. Well, the suffering of disease is, or would be called, an effect of some cause. It's how some kind of disorder or disturbance of the physiology appears and makes itself manifest in terms of symptoms. So, do we want a breakage in the logical order of the world for there to be some cause without the effect? We would have to have a completely different universe from top to bottom, it seems. Okay, now that kind of suffering. Well, what about the suffering that comes from when we do dishonest things, right? When we lead dishonest lives and then we suffer from uh, the consequences, or we suffer the consequences in mental health and emotional health. So, do we try to remove that kind of suffering? It's the same thing. It's impossible. One thing, two sides of the same coin, the cause and the effect. So, we see here too that just to say that uh, suffering is bad and pleasure is good is problematic. Further, if pleasure is pursued for its own sake, we see that it will quickly eat itself up and will make itself even impossible. The possibility of pleasure is predicated on an initial nullification. So, for example, in order to have the pleasure of drinking cool water on a hot day, first I need to get at least a little bit thirsty. Once I've drank enough cool water, it can even become painful to continue to drink. I need another nullification first, get a little bit more thirsty. And I'm hungry and I eat and it feels great. But if I'm forced to eat past the point of satiety, then it could again be torture. I just had a nice big meal and now I'm invited to another meal. And to not being polite, I eat another whole course. It'd be horrible. All right, so just to pursue that kind of gratification in itself, it destroys itself. It needs that initial nullification. Further, pleasure is a state that accompanies the satisfaction of an active objective. We can't shoot for it directly in and of its own self. So, for instance, I have an objective associated with my stomach, right, with the needs of the body, and that would be logically why to eat feels good. And I have an objective for my sports team to win because I'm a fan, and when they win, that feels good. It's pleasurable. But the pleasure itself, I can't just shoot for. Right? Where's the pleasure? Let me grab it. I need to fulfill an objective of mine, to eat, to watch my sports team win, something like that. And then I can feel pleasure. So here too we see, such as to say, should we say, that we can't just say, oh, the goal is to seek pleasure. Pleasure can't even be sought in and of its own self. We can only try to fulfill certain conditions, certain objectives, such that may be experienced as pleasurable. Right? And pain, to avoid suffering, again, is not a prudent scheme of life. We try to avoid pain. We try to avoid suffering, be it physical. I'm not going to work out because I don't want any suffering. I'm not going to cut out any foods that I like because I don't want any suffering. We're going to have physical issues eventually. We try to cut out psychological suffering. I'm not going to deal with any of my complexes, with any of my conflicts, with any of my inner entanglements and issues and such. I'm going to avoid it. I'm just going to pretend everything is always fine. I'm going to suffer even more in the long term. Suffering that I ought to sustain. If I run from it, I will be the loser for it. So that's not a plan of life. Let me pursue pleasure. Let me avoid suffering. So what then, again, can constitute good and bad, right and wrong, ethical and non-ethical? Doesn't apply to robots. We need sentience. But even if we have sentience, it's not enough to say that we need to pursue pleasure and avoid pain. What then can be said? Well, here it could be asked, when a person acts in a given way, what is really the act? Let's take an act that common sense says is good or is bad. Let's say common sense says that it is good to give some money to a person that is genuinely needy. Let's say I knew for a fact that the person will not misuse the funds that I provide for them. They'll use it to feed themselves. They're just right now going through a tough time, and this is the best thing for them, for me to help them. So I give them a few dollars. What is it that I did? The normal intuition is, well, you gave them the money. This is what you did. Look, I took a video of it. Well, we see that that is problematic, because if that was the act, right, and somebody took a video of me giving the $5 to the home challenged individual, and then that video was played 100 times, well, then the act was done 100 times. Right? Again, if the act itself was the image or the images of me giving the money to the home challenged individual, and that's recorded and that's played 100 times, well, then it's 100 acts. So it can't be that. If 100 people saw it, let's say I'm a show person, right? I want to do it in front of 100 people. Look, here's the money. Did I give the money 100 times? No, I didn't. I gave it once. So the act in itself is not what is seen. Right? If I'm blind and everybody else there is blind, I still gave the money. So it's not what is seen. It's not even what is touched. So what is it? It would seem to be a sort of inner um, determination, right? To do such and such thing, to find myself in some certain way, in this particular way, given who I am, given what I believe to be true, given what I take the context to be. So let's say then that in question, inside, internally, something as follows transpired. I am a particular person, and I have my differences from others. I have my own body and my own mind and my own psychology, and you have yours. And yet, I feel a deep sense of unity with other people. I have an intuition that in some way we have something in common. We are a we. Right? We exist together. So I see some such other person that's essentially like me. I see myself in them. I see that they are in need. I prize this momentary human connection, this opportunity to will the good of this other individual. And consequently, with genuine sympathy, with a genuine sense of the reality of the other person and his or her needs, I go and I sacrifice my money that I would have spent for myself, and I say, I will give it to this other person. Now, that here would seem to be the act itself. It's that inner decision in this context, right, based on what I take to be true. That's the act. Whether or not it happens is a different story. I went to take out the bill and the wind blew it away. I still decided to give it. I went to give the bill, the person didn't take it. I still decided to give it. I went to give the bill, a bird swooped in, theoretically speaking, and flew away with it. I still decided to give it. Right? So the decision is that inner determination that I will do such and such deed. This is what's happening. These are the realities in question, and this is what I shall do. And conversely, we see that if the thought process was different, if the thought process was, I am preponderantly an alienated, isolated little atom, so to speak, not literally, just like a little particle out of all these other particles, these other people, we're all fundamentally at odds. I have nothing at all in common with anybody else. There's nothing that unifies me with anyone. It's a dog eats dog world. The primary objective of life is to pander to my pride, to promote my self-interest. Right? Here is an object. Here is a thing, meaning the needy person. And I have an opportunity to pander to my pride, to think of myself as a good person, to impress somebody, to film it for social media, whatever the case might be. I, the superior one, I will show that I have the means and this person does not. I will show that I'm above and this person is below. I will show that I am something and this person is nothing. So I just make that decision, right? And then I take out the money and I give it. Same thing. The deed is not that which could be videoed or seen with the eyes. The deed was that internal thought process in the context such as it is, culminating in that I will. This is what I shall do. That is the deed. It certainly does seem. And just so here, even if the person accepts the money and everything goes smoothly, I did not really help anybody. I did not really do a good deed because the deed was inside and there was nothing good about my inner context, about my thought process. So by analyzing what we take to be good and bad deeds, that can perhaps point us in the appropriate direction. Taking those examples that were just mentioned, it seems then that, again, the goodness or the badness of something such as giving a little bit of money to somebody that is in need cannot be at all attributed to or derived from the scene itself, the outwardness of the situation. Again, that which can be videoed and seen by others. It is rather that inner context, those inner understandings of who am I, who are you, what is our relationship, and what is going on. So, consequently, what would be good is if I have a self such as is able to truly sympathize with other people, such as is able to feel a sense of unity with my fellow human beings, and then that I decide to express the goodness of myself. Or if we don't want to use the word that we're trying to define in the definition, that I then express my genuine convictions, my genuine inner realities in a given act. I decide to promote, to will the welfare of another by stepping in their shoes, by conceiving of them, as a real person. And I take a step closer to reality. I take a step out of my selfishness and out of my self-centeredness. That would seem to be the arena wherein ethical evaluations are valid. Right? What am I thinking? Who am I? What is it that I think that I'm doing? And nowhere else, not on the outside. Now, certainly, my understanding, my belief about what will happen, what is going on, that factors into that inward process. Right? If I think I'm going to give this person the money and they're going to spend it immediately and they're going to have an overdose and they're going to die, well, then my deed was not good, right? From my own point of view, because based on what I knew, it would not have led to the welfare of that other individual. But at the same time, again, the actual deed, its actual goodness or badness seems wholly predicated on that inward reality, on that inward aspect of a given situation. So, such as to say, to our point, what is good, what is bad, what is right, what is wrong, if we dive deeper, if we go beneath the superficialities of supposing that whatever it is that in a given cultural milieu is thought to be nice, right? It's good. You're a good person if you do X, Y, Z, right? You just follow the rules, do ABC, and you'll be good. No, no problems, nothing else. You do something else and you'll be bad. That's it. If we go beneath the surface, what it seems is good now, yesterday, and always is to be a certain kind of self, to have a certain kind of relation with our notion of humanity and with particular people that we encounter, to have a certain degree of, say, self-forgetfulness and self-transcendence vis-a-vis selfishness and self-centeredness, that kind of thing. The question is always, who am I? It's not what happens objectively, strictly. It's not simply where's the pleasure and where's the pain. The question is, what am I? Who am I? Am I a kind of self such that is able to overstep, again, its own rottenness, its own self-centeredness, its own animality, such as is in right relations with reality over and above itself, such as it is in right relations with other people? Am I that kind of self? Or am I the kind of self that is small and tiny, that's different and shriveled and warped, and is on fundamentally wrong terms with other people, that is fundamentally alienated from itself, that is contused and confused, that is imbruted, that is animalized, that kind of thing? Whatever I do, if I'm that kind of self, it can't be good. I'm incapable of goodness, because whatever it is that I do is judged from the inside out. I give somebody money, it's me asserting my superiority. I do something that is quote unquote kind, right? It's thought to be kind by kind of objective standards. It's really, again, me wanting to think that I'm a good person, me wanting to be better than somebody, me pandering to my pride, something like this. If I'm the wrong kind of self, there's nothing good that I can do. And if I'm the right kind of self, then I certainly can mess up in my calculations as to what is good. Oh, I thought I was helping this person and they went and did something destructive. But essentially, far as my deeds are expressions of what I am, they are then good deeds. So everything in short and in summary seems to come back to the sort of self that we are. We cannot run from that sort of self that we are by trying to hide behind quote unquote good deeds, by trying to obfuscate who we really are by charity, by donations, by doing quote unquote nice things and those kinds of things. And that can really, in fact, be detrimental because it can continue to cover up to ourselves and to other people who we really are. I'm a good person because I do, again, XYZ. And look, I contribute here. This is a nice cause, right? Look, I gave them money and I gave this other cause money. And look, I gave the kitten some milk and I petted the puppy behind the ear. I'm a good person. There's nothing else to see here. Move along. No, I'm lying to myself. I'm obfuscating the reality of my inward situation and consequently perhaps doing more harm than good. So rather than hiding behind quote unquote charity, quote unquote good deeds, see myself for what I am and understand that the only possibility of uh, goodness, the only possibility of rightness, the only possibility of real morality rests with who it is that I am. So we can consider it. Thank you for listening.